Welcome, everyone. Welcome. Once again, we are here with the Ford Critical Conversation, sponsored by Ford Motor Company Fund and National Recreation Foundation. We will begin at 6 p.m. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the music interlude. We will be starting shortly. For those of you out in Facebook that may be watching, this is Detroit Pal's presentation of Ford's Critical Conversations. This is week 4 of our 6-week series. We have been talking about freedom of speech, cultural and social norms, and today we're going to have a very exciting topic as well. The space for us to bring and give them a platform to speak and let their voices be heard. We're excited for you to join us today, those of you who are watching on Facebook. We're joined here with some fantastic Detroit Pal staff, our CEO, Robert Jamerson. We have fantastic police officers from Detroit Police Department, and we have some fantastic note takers as well, who will be taking those in small breakout rooms with our youth. Again, we're gonna begin in just a couple minutes. We want to welcome you all for Critical Conversations. Welcome, everyone. It's 6 o'clock and it's time for us to start Ford's Critical Conversations. Thank you for those of you who tuned on for us on Facebook Live. We're going to start off with a message from our CEO, Robert Jamerson. and then we will kick off our session for today. And it looks like we are getting our video ready to present, and we'll be starting just in a moment. We get to look at our CEO, Robert Anderson, right there. That's him. And here we go.
Hello, my name is Robert Jamerson. I'm the CEO of Detroit PAL, and I welcome you to Critical Conversations. This is where Detroit Police Department and our youth come together to have critical dialogue to address some of the systemic challenges that we face today. We hope that positive exchanges occur to where we can find solutions that help to change and reshape the world. With that being said, we couldn't do this without the Detroit PAL staff, each of you, but some of our important sponsors, Detroit Police Department, the Ford Motor Company Fund, and as well as the National Recreation Foundation. With that, we want to say thank you, and please participate. It's what you put into it that comes out of it. Thank you.
All right, that was our CEO, Robert Jamerson. Want to once again welcome you all and thank you for joining us. This is Ford's presentation of critical conversations. Thanks to the Ford Ford Motor Company Fund, excuse me. And today we have an exciting topic. Today we are going to be talking about police brutality and harassment. And this is a session that I know a lot of people are interested in, something that has been heavily promoted in the media. And we want to give our youth a chance to say what's on their minds, to share their experiences, to, as always, present some positive solutions, perceived solutions that they have as we engage in this very, very important topic in this discussion. So, with that being said, welcome my co host, Corporal Marcus Norwood.
Hey, welcome everybody. Everybody's watching it on Facebook. So glad to have you here. Everybody's still stuff off that turkey. I know I am. Glad to have you here. See some familiar faces and a couple of new faces. So this is going to be exciting. I'm really excited today, probably more than any other week, to hear what's going on about this great topic that we have here today. Maria, thank you for the intro. I think, do we have some poll questions that we want to put up there?
Yes, we have some exciting poll questions. And just a reminder for those who are not speaking at the moment, please keep your phone muted for the background noise to limit the background noise. But we do have some exciting polls. So we have our lovely Autumn in the background who is going to present that poll for us. And
there it
is. A little bit of Detroit PAL trivia.
Oh, this ought to be good. When was Detroit PAL funded?
Detroit PAL founded?
Oh.
1956. Was it 1969? Was it 1997? Those answers are starting to come in.
Go ahead and put them in there. Maria, do you know the answer? Do you have the answer in your head?
The answer.
Yes, I definitely have the answer.
If I didn't, I'd probably be in trouble. As youth enrichment director at Detroit PAL, being here for a little over a year now.
Yeah. How time flies.
So I'll wait on the answers from the youth.
Right.
Number 2 is, what does de-escalate mean? And this is just a little recap from one of our previous sessions. And we have the options to increase the intensity of a situation, to move backwards on an escalator, or to reduce the intensity of a situation. And so based on our discussion last week, what does de-escalate mean?
Hmm. Now I'm really interested to know if the kids, our youth here, would know what de-escalation means when it comes to this particular poll. I know we have a lot of smart people in here, so go ahead and put your answers in there. And I'm excited to see the results when they are all in. Uh,
A
de-escalation.
large percentage of people who did answer the poll. So let's
Cool.
go ahead and show those results. All right. So 15% or 68% of, of participants said 1969 is the date when Detroit PAL was founded, and that would be correct.
If you said 1969, show me some hands. You would be correct. Show me those hands if you got the right answer. All right.
Great
All
job.
right.
And
Not
our
bad.
next question looks like the most popular answer. What does de-escalate mean? To reduce the intensity of a situation. And yes, you all are absolutely correct. We talked about it last week, right?
In the last read, I see Catrice showing some hands over there. Cool. Cool. So it looked like most people got the answers correct. That means we're doing something. You guys are smart. Um, so we're going to move on. Speaking of that, good job on that. Take a moment right now, if you could, is to make sure that your name is being represented on your page. So I know some kids may have their parents' name or sign on as their parents' name, or maybe their brother's name, but we want your name posted on here. So if you can go ahead and just rename yourself if your name is not on there, you can just kind of scroll over your own picture, hit those three buttons that's at the top right hand corner, and scroll down to where it says rename. And then just go ahead and put your name in there if it's not in there already. Yep, so just scroll over your picture, the three dots to the top right corner, scroll down to rename, and go ahead and put your name in there. That way we know exactly who we're talking to, because your opinion counts. Your opinion.
All right.
So today, Maria, seems like we got an exciting thing going on today. It's really exciting. A very serious topic that we want to discuss, that we want to own up to, as far as the police department. And we want to know, what are we doing right? What can we do right? How are we doing? And what can we do better? Uh, so today's subject is police brutality and harassment. We do have an expert here who can speak a little bit about this. Let's all welcome Corporal Paisley here. Show us some hands. Corporal Paisley, are you here with us? Sweet.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Now, I know this topic is near and dear to you because you've always speak about integrity. So when we talk about police harassment or police brutality, uh, in your mind, what is that? What is the definition of that?
So the definition of police brutality is the unwarranted or excessive use of force against a civilian by police officers.
One more time for me. That was pretty good. One more time. What is it again?
Yeah, for sure. The unwarranted or excessive use of force against a civilian by police officers.
Now, I noticed that you said the unwarranted or excessive use of force. Now, when you mention excessive use of, why is it so important that you mention excessive use of force?
Well, I mentioned that because in some cases, the use of force is necessary. We may have a civilian that maybe is being combative, or he's not complying, or he's being aggressive. Therefore, the use of force may be necessary in some situations.
I understand. Yeah, but it's that key word. Yeah, because we know everyone doesn't comply just because police ask them to certain commands.
Still got to come over here.
Yep. And we do have someone on, and that's no problem. Just everyone, just again, check your microphones, make sure that you're muted before we speak. So cool. Yeah, so Corporal Paisley, yeah, you said excessive force, and sometimes force is necessary, but I think departments cause a lot of trouble when they get into that excessive part. And we talked about de-escalation here in the polls as well. So with that being said, in your opinion, what are some of the reasons why you think these escalations or excessive force might even happen?
Well, I believe it happens due to number one, the lack of community involvement, um, maybe the lack of training, or implicit bias or unknown cultural social norms.
And I know we covered a couple of those before. There's cultural norms, cultural and social norms. Officer Mike was really big on that, where we get to understand the community that we're serving. So what's normal in one culture may be viewed as combative or irregular in another culture. We have a lot of excitement in the background. That's okay. That means they're tuned in, they're listening, right? So cool, cool. And you mentioned training. I know we have Sergeant Kelsey here with the Detroit Police Department, and we talked about training. Sergeant Kelsey, what type of training or background do the Detroit Police Department have to help combat some of this harassment or brutality? Are there any kind of trainings that the police department have to understand one another, their citizens and the police?
Good evening, everyone. And yes, we do. We train twice a year, sometimes more, at our police academy, professional education training center. And there we'll have a 40-hour training, which is a week of training. And there we go over different things, social norms, mental illness, everything. We even go through our shooting. We go through laws. We go through everything that we learned in the academy. We have a 2 sessions a year where we're actually retrained on everything. So, and not only then, when you're on patrol, once a month, they'll have training as well. They'll have each platoon will have their own separate training. In that training, they'll go over everything that we learned in the academy again. So we're training a lot. Actually, probably a lot more than what it seems, but we do train a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. I like that you mentioned about the shooting training. So not necessarily of your marksmanship and shooting, but when you're allowed to shoot, when is it lawful, when is it not lawful, and when should a deadly weapon actually be used, when is it authorized, when is it not authorized. So I know that I've been through quite a bit of training. Officer Mike, Officer George that are on here, been through some extensive training. So that's one good thing that we're proud about in the Detroit Police Department, is that we're progressively training to help de-escalate and not come into these combative situations.
So it sounds like there's a lot of training that's taking place. Um, and we know that there are many, many more good police officers that are helping to keep our streets safe and protecting us. Then there are those that might not be making the best choices. And so today, what we're here to talk about is get it out on the table. What are the issues that you've seen, young people? What have you heard? This is your chance to have your voice heard, to speak up, and your chance to talk about what do you think are some of the reasons for excessive force that might take place against a civilian by a police officer. And what do you think are some possible solutions? So that is what we are asking you to do. So get ready. We want you to bring your best ideas forth and share and be transparent, just like you did that very first day before you knew there were any police officers on here. And now that we know that we have caring police officers on this call that want to hear your voice and want to hear your ideas, then we can be just as transparent during this time.
So right now, to our youth, with that being said, if you have an opinion, something that you think you want to get out on your chest, off of your chest about this particular subject, I want everyone to say, yes, I have an opinion, and point to yourself. There's definitely something that I want to say when it comes to police harassment or police brutality or just mistreatment by police to their citizens. If you have an opinion or just even a thought of what you think what's wrong, what could happen, what you would like to see happen, just go ahead and just point to yourself real quick. Say, yes, I have an opinion on that. And that would be cool because we want to hear from each and every one of you. So also, Officer Paisley, you and I spoke a little earlier about with all the training that we said, and that sometimes things happen where a police officer does an action that is against the law or against department policy. And a lot of citizens may not know when those things happen, what is the results? What could be the results of that officer? Is there any accountability?
Absolutely, there is accountability. Police officers are held to a higher standard. Um, so we are expected to be held accountable for our actions. So what happens is there is a complaint that could be initiated, and all complaints have to be investigated. It goes to the office of the chief investigator, and if they find that there is enough evidence to move forward, then that complaint goes to the disciplinary section. And if the disciplinary section finds that they're held responsible for the complaint, and that they're guilty of the complaint, then that goes to the chief office. And then the chief office will ultimately decide, depending on the severity of the situation, what actions will be taken. It could be termination or whatever he decides is warranted for that action.
Cool.
Do officers really get terminated? Does that happen often? Have you heard of or know of anyone that was terminated because of wrongful actions or making bad choices on the job?
Well, absolutely. It has happened before. Like I said, it just depends on the seriousness of the situation. It could be termination or it may not be termination, but it does happen.
And now I can think of one incident due to the great leadership of Chief Craig. You don't necessarily have to actually break a law. If you're breaking department policy, and we have something that we call conduct unbecoming of a police officer. So a while back, a couple of officers made a post on their social media, their own personal social media, but it didn't represent the police department as a whole of what we stand for. And so there was strict and swift discipline to that officer who made that post because he made the post in uniform, although he did it on his own social media post. So again, like Officer Paisley said, we are held to a higher standard, and I'm okay with that. I'm definitely okay with that. But again, we're only one incident from really having a major issue in the city. Luckily, we're trying to do some things to prevent that from even happening. So thank you for that, Officer Paisley. And that's a great question, Maria. All right. So it looks like we are about ready to go into our breakout rooms with your officer, So as Autumn, I think Autumn may be ready. Each of you guys will go into a breakout room. This is for the people who are on Facebook Live. What's going to happen? Officers are going to have a good conversation with their youth, and youth are going to have a good conversation with their officers in small groups. And they're going to talk for about 20 minutes. Officers are going to pose them a couple of questions about this subject on police harassment and police brutality. And hopefully we'll come up with some solutions as well. So while we're doing that, if you're viewing on Facebook Live, if you have any questions that you want to ask me as a police officer, please feel free to go ahead and type those in, and we'll get to as many of them as we can.
All right, and while everybody looks like everybody's leaving into the breakout rooms now. Thank you very much, Miss Autumn behind the scenes.
Yep, and I want to tell you, Maria, we have a special guest. I don't know if you know this or not, but we're going to have a special guest joining us today, one of our youth. You'll see who it is in just a minute.
Ooh, yes, I'm excited to have a special youth guest join us.
She's phenomenal. She's very opinionated, I might add. And she's definitely one of our top broadcasting students who's in our broadcasting class.
All right.
Yeah, so we'll learn a little bit more about that as well.
All right, perfect.
We have Officer Woods who just joined us. So I think Autumn, you can.
I do want to stop for just a moment because I see Jessica was doing the sign language for our hearing
Oh,
impaired
yes.
youth. And I want to make sure that she got into the correct room.
Okay.
So Autumn, if you need to go into the room with Jessica and ask her, then go ahead and do that and just make sure she's in the correct room so she can
Yeah.
service that youth.
Autumn, I sent you a message about that.
Thank you.
And we could probably place Corporal Woods into a room with someone else.
All right, so it's just us
Just us.
now
Just us.
on Facebook.
How you doing, Miss Torres?
And we have a guest.
Yes. This guest is so amazing. She's going to be a superstar. You might want to get her autograph now if you haven't already. I want to introduce to you Miss Allison Hayes. Hello, Allison.
Hi.
Allison Hayes is already a super what is it? A super girl.
Super.
There you go.
Yeah, not going to be is
That
right,
I
Allison?
stand
I'm
corrected.
already there. A little busy, but it's okay. It's okay. You didn't know.
Well, welcome, Allison. Thank you for joining us today. We are
Glad
glad
to be here.
to talk about some of this important topic on.
I'm really glad to be here. Before Thanksgiving break was my first time joining, and I want to say I really did enjoy it. So I'm glad to be here, honestly.
Cool. I know it's big. You're on Zoom all day at school, and for you to come and join us here on your own time and give your opinion and give us some insight, I'm really appreciative of this. So again, thank you very much.
Before we get started with Allison, I want to ask Ms. Eva Torres, thank you for joining us from the mayor's office. Would you like to go into a breakout room, or would you rather stay here with us with Allison? You can decide.
I unfortunately will be stepping out. I have another Zoom call at 6:30. But I just wanted to come in and say hello to everybody and show my support.
Thank you. Thank you for supporting again. I know you were here with us last week, and we definitely appreciate you coming and checking out what we're doing here at Detroit Power with you.
Thank you for having me. And Miss Allison, I'm going to get the autograph when I see you next time. How about that?
As soon as you see me, we can do that.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, superstar.
Cool. So Allison, you're out there, you're with your friends, you hear things that's going on when it comes with police and the climate that's out there with all the YouTube channels and posts and World Star, whatever it may be on. What are some of the things that you are hearing the youth say when it comes to treatment of citizens by police?
Personally, with my group of friends and the people that I'm around, they're scared.
Mm-hmm.
I've never heard of a problem as far as Detroit police. I wouldn't say Michigan police in general, but as far as it goes for Detroit police, I haven't heard many issues or any complications really. So I won't say for the Detroit police that they have a reason to be scared. But for the rest of the world, as it seems, and the rest of America in general, as it seems, we definitely have a reason to be scared. We have a reason to say, every time I see a police car behind me, I fear for my life, especially if you are a person of color or a person of different ethnicity. Mm-hmm. I think it's definitely a reason to be scared and a reason to doubt or be confused about what may happen. When you see them, those blue and red lights that are flashing behind you, you have no idea what's going to happen next, especially if you are not, I'm not going to say it doesn't happen to those that aren't a part of the person of color, mm-hmm. but if you are a part of, what my skin looks like and even darker, I will say that it's necessary for us to have that certain type of fear.
Yeah, that's a valid response, Allison. And Just want to say thank you for your openness, your honesty, just to be transparent about what you and your friends are feeling and talking about, because that's what this is about today. And in addition to that, we want to think about what are some of the causes of that, where are we seeing it, and when we're not seeing it, why, right? And is that everyone's experience? So I'm just curious about that too, just because I know I've seen a lot in the media that has been negative and that has been very just visible, that's been negative. But I also know so many good police officers. And so I always feel conflicted when it comes to that, because I know that there are good police officers, especially here in Detroit. And I am really interested in what kind of, like, where is the fear coming from? Is it 100% warranted? Is it somewhat warranted? And what are some of the possible solutions?
So the cool thing about it is that we do get a chance to talk to some of our youth here. So again, I'll ask you, Allison, and I'm glad that you mentioned that at least in your group, there's not a serious fear when it comes to the Detroit Police Department. But we all know Detroit is in a silo. We all don't just stay in the city limits all the time. When we do go to suburban cities, we do leave Michigan from time to time. And with that fear that you guys are experiencing, that's really real. And I appreciate you expressing that to us. So let's just take, for example, the big thing now is the traffic stops, right? We talk about traffic stops. I'm assuming that you're close to the age of driving, if you're not driving already.
I am.
Yeah, absolutely. Perfect license, I'm sure, correct? Yeah. What exactly is going on in your mind on a traffic stop if you are getting pulled over, when you do see those red and blue lights that you mentioned? What's the first thing that you're thinking, whether what you should do or what you think the officer's actions are going to be? Just run us through what might be on your mind.
Well, for me personally, I haven't been pulled over, so I can't speak from personal experience. But with other experiences, as I'm talking to a friend or someone that I know and I'm close with them and they say, oh, we just got pulled over, instantly or immediately, I'm kind of scared because you never know what's going to happen. Like I stated previously, you don't hear much happening with the Detroit police. No, you don't. But in places like Southfield or Bloomfield Hills, you never know what's going to happen with policemen that really don't know where we come from. Mm-hmm. And really don't expect anything to happen. So, of course, sometimes they might jump to conclusions that aren't even there. We have, if in most situations, I do get scared with people that are, if my friend will say, hey, we just got pulled over, it's like, okay, just remain calm, make sure you keep your hands on the desk or on the front board, and make sure you don't say a word, only answer if you're asked a question, only speak if you're spoken to. Don't do anything extra, because we have to make sure that we have our own personal protocols and our own personal things that we do literally. And I'm pretty sure most of the family members that I have already know or already tell me, like, this is what you're supposed to do. And this is not even written rule, but it's our own personal rule and our own known rule that you do this unless you want this, unless you want that bad result.
Understand. We also have Sergeant Jordan Hall on the call. I see you're here, Sergeant. Are you able to hear me? Sergeant Hall.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us here.
Hello, welcome.
Yeah.
Hey, y'all. Sorry, I'm was at home and I had to walk away. I have my son was asleep next to me. I'm walking away. Put a little video on too. Sorry. Christmas tree.
Thanks for joining us. So for those who are just joining us again on Facebook Live, we're here with Ford Motor Company Fund with the critical conversations when it comes to police harassment and police brutality. We have our special guest here, Ms. Allison Hayes, our youth representative that's joined us today, who was expressing concerns that she and her friends may have, not necessarily in Detroit, but with police in general, when it comes to maybe encountering police. So we were just mentioning traffic stops, Sarge. What are some of the things that young people should keep in mind if they are approached by police officers when it comes to a traffic stop? What are some tips?
Yes, actually it's a great question. And just as a disclaimer, like I always do, our training department for the Detroit Police Department, they're in charge with, they're tasked with that responsibility for making sure that all the men and women of the police department are operating according to the department standards with traffic stops, and we're following the rules and regulations and the laws. But as a tip, we get pulled over as well when we're off duty if we either, I guess, violate the traffic law, whether we know it or not, meaning we might have a tail light out and you don't know it, you get pulled over for the tail light. So the best thing that I see that has been working for me my whole life, prior to being a police officer and currently as a police officer, anytime I get pulled over, I just go ahead and use my blinkers to get over. When I see it's a marked police car that's pulling me over, that's important. I make sure that we are able to. Sorry, I had a light turn on. I make sure that we're able to keep my hands on the steering wheel. It's very important. I make sure I don't reach for my wallet, or if you're a young lady or anybody that carries a purse, don't reach for your purse. Don't reach for the glove box. Just make sure you keep your hands on the steering wheel. If it's nighttime, if you can safely turn on your lights, your interior lights, I think that's important to do. And also, let's say you're kind of afraid, you just seen the TV and you're like, oh no, I'm afraid of police officers. I don't want to get hurt. If you want to, I guess, roll your window down maybe an inch or two, if you don't want to roll it all the way down, then fine, but just enough so the police officer can, you can hear the police officer, and that officer, if they're asking for your license or any type of paperwork or document, you can give that officer those documents through the window. So I guess once again, it's important also to make sure that you don't, if the officer says, go ahead and get your license, just go slow. Let that officer know, hey, my license is in my purse. Would you like for me to get it? My purse is right there. Or my registration is in the glove box. Would you like for me to get it? I think me as a law enforcement official, I can appreciate someone telling me what their next move is. And I do the same thing. It has kept me safe when I get pulled over.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Those sound like some really, really great tips. And hopefully people listening here will remember those tips, as well as you, Allison. Those are some things that do make things a lot easier, a lot more comfortable. Because we know, the Detroit Police Department isn't perfect. And that's why we're having these kind of conversations to prevent things from escalating and happening, as I mentioned earlier. But it just doesn't happen to youth. It happens to people of all ages. I know we have our CEO, Mr. Robert Jameson, on here, and I can imagine that he's heard some stories or maybe even experienced some things himself, and how he went through those things. Robert, can you hear me?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you, Allison. I truly appreciate your words that are coming out. I got to actually, instead of doing a story, I got a question for Sergeant Hall, and then I got a follow-up question for Allison. Sergeant Hall, one of the things that I always love to hear, and being around our officers here, is the perspective of an officer when they come to a traffic stop. Because I've heard about the data that it sometimes may be seen as the most dangerous part of the job, where instances, can go wrong just because of so much uncertain things. What's going through the mindset of an officer when they pull someone over, and why is that?
Wow. And that's, of course, this is a very subjectional, every officer is going to answer this differently, but I got to tell you, me doing, I'm sure definitely over 1,000 traffic stops in my career, working various units, patrol units and other different units. I got to tell you, I'm nervous every time I pull somebody over for it didn't matter if they ran a red light, if they were speeding, if they didn't use their blinker, if, let's say the license, it was something like a license plate lamp was out. I mean, something that somebody would consider very, very minor. Sometimes we just don't know. And if it's something that we can enforce, then we can pull you over for it. Doesn't mean you have to get a ticket, okay? But I got to tell you, every time I get behind a vehicle, every time I turn on those lights, I don't know what's going to happen to me the next step. I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to go back to my family. I don't know. I don't know who's in the car. I don't know if they're wanted for anything. Because some people think that, oh, you ran a license plate, it shows all this stuff. No, it doesn't show everything. Sometimes our computers were really, really slow. I mean, I think Norwood would tell you, we used to have something called an MDT.
Yeah.
And that was a mobile data terminal. And it was old. It was like an old Apple.
Very limited resources. Yeah, very limited.
And sometimes it didn't come back. We had something called an MDC, and it took all day to get the information back. So when we run somebody's plate, it doesn't always come back. We don't always know who we're dealing with. So I got to tell you, as a police officer, I'm confident, I'm ready, but I'm also nervous. I don't know who's in there, what they're wanted for. And I've had a lot of dangerous situations that I've dealt with over the years, but it's important as a police officer to maintain respect and treat everybody with the courtesy, give everybody that option, that initial respect factor. Don't talk to anybody bad. That's what's important. That makes the difference in a traffic stop.
I like
but
what you
we
said
do
about
deal with
that,
some dangerous
Sarge.
people sometimes.
Yeah. With that being said, Sarge, just real quickly, as nervous as a police officer may or may not be, we also keep in mind that the citizen may be twice as nervous.
Yes.
So we have to maintain that balance. It's not necessarily incumbent upon the citizen to lead or initiate the calm factor, right? That's still our job as police officers. So as nervous as we may or may not be, we don't know what situation we're getting into. I think the good thing that I want everyone to know is that we're still responsible for maintaining the calmness and serenity of that encounter. So I just wanted to make sure that we said that.
Allison, you've heard a lot from Sergeant Hall. Thank you, Sergeant Hall. Thank you, Corporal Norwood. Robert, our CEO, thank you. What's going through your mind, Allison? Do you have any questions at this time?
I mean, no questions at the moment, but with the same thing that Officer Norwood said, with the citizen might be twice as nervous. And normally we're twice as nervous for the most part, because at the end of the day, no matter what we're doing, of course you have no idea in the car, which I agree with Sergeant Hall. Of course you have no idea who is in the car, but then again, we have no idea who the officer is, what type of notches he has under his belt, his or her, excuse me. And we have no idea what's going through their mind when they come to the car and what they're trying to do. A lot of times, seeing with other states, there have been policemen that pull over a young person, a person in the youth, for no reason, just because they feel like pulling someone over. So for the most part, I do agree with Officer Norwood when he says, we have no idea and we're twice as nervous, because of the fact that for the most part, you guys are the ones holding the badge and the gun. So we can't really, defend ourselves to a certain point, especially since, you have no idea who we are. We have no idea who you are. So a lot of times respect can't go both ways if we don't know who each other are.
Absolutely. Sergeant Hall, I want to ask you, this one came in, I'm not sure if you have the information, this one came in on our social media, is as how many incidents a year are there regarding police brutality? Would you happen to have that information handy on average, or would you like to comment about that?
No, I couldn't. I couldn't. I don't have that information. Police brutality. And when they say that, they mean with the Detroit Police Department, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I think maybe our internal affairs division might have that. I don't have that information.
Is that information that's open to the public? Could they find it through community meetings or anything of that nature?
Normally the police brutality, let me try to find that information out for you while on here. Let's see if we can answer that question. But okay, let me just find that out.
Great. If you could, I know that you may not have the information, but I'm really happy that you're trying to look into it and answer those questions that are popping up on our social media. Appreciate that.
Okay, no problem. Let me know. I'm going to find out right now.
Okay, and just make sure you put yourself back on mute. I see everybody's coming back in there. Maria.
Welcome back, everybody. Did you have some good discussion? Let me see hands if you had some good discussion.
I see, some new faces.
We
I see
had some
Ava.
Very good discussion happening on Facebook Live while you were in your breakout rooms. I'm excited to hear about what you all talked about. We didn't quite, I don't know how many solutions we got to, maybe a little bit, but I'm excited to dig into some solutions on this topic as well. So, Corporal Norwood, if you want to take it over for the report back.
I want to start with Officer Richardson. Officer Richardson, where are you? Where are you? Let's see. Richardson. I know I saw you earlier.
Hello, sir. How are you?
There you go. Nice background you have there, right?
That was awesome.
So while you were in your breakout rooms, we were trying to come up with some possible solutions. And I think maybe in your room, you might have talked about what could officers do differently. I'm not sure if that's what you covered in your room, but let us know what happened in your room.
Right. So we had some really amazing conversation, and we actually didn't get too much into the solutions, but we did get into kind of how maybe we shape what police brutality is and why we believe what we believe, because some of us haven't even had police interactions at all. But we certainly have a mindset of what it is and how it happens. So we're gonna let Ava go ahead and take us away, and then she's got a little backup from Faith and Selena. So go ahead, Ava, take us away.
Ava, let's hear what you have to say.
Hi. So
hello.
Pretty much in our group, most of us raised our hands saying like we were afraid that it could happen to us or maybe loved ones around us. And like some reasons for that were like, especially us being Black. And like, I feel like maybe females could be targeted a little bit more, but also people who are youth, I feel like could be targeted a lot, because just because we're youth could mean we don't have nearly as much strength or power to battle against.
Wow, that's powerful. And that's interesting that you brought that up, because a couple of weeks ago, we talked about what are your rights, especially when it comes to youth and your First Amendment and Fourth Amendment and Fifth Amendment rights, free speech and unreasonable search and seizure of those things of that nature and how it applies to schools. So it's interesting that you said that because I want you guys to feel empowered. So thank you for that. Officer Mike, we have anybody else in your group?
Yeah, if we can go ahead and have Selena and Faith go ahead and weigh in and just add a little bit or build on it, however you feel. I trust you.
All right. So, we talked about how our perception, well, for a lot of us, our perception of police brutality has been built not by what we've experienced personally, but by what we've seen on social media. I think that can be a good and bad thing. I mean, you know what's out there, so you can protect yourself. But then also sometimes, you might be getting false information. So I guess you would just have to be really careful of that. I also feel like even though we might not have experienced it personally, we can't deny the fact that it exists and it's a problem that needs solving. So I think that there's a lot of different reasons for police brutality. And we talked about some of those reasons, how, some people might not be respecting the police officer or whatever. And sometimes it's just like, you're being respectful, and sometimes the police officer will just disrespect you and take your rights away. There are a lot of different reasons why police brutality happens, and I think understanding those reasons is how we can come to the solution.
Wow, amazing. So definitely it sounds like mutual respect can go a long way, on the police officer's part and the youth part, right? So thank you for that.
I'm even curious to follow that up with a question about how can we prevent it? and what are some possible solutions? I know some of you didn't talk about that quite yet, and we didn't really either, but this is a great time still to just share some of those ideas. If anyone has an idea, or if one of our officers, you guys talked about solutions in your room, you want to go ahead and speak up, want to share what some of those solutions are.
And you could also put some of those solutions in our chat down there. I'd love to hear you, officer or officers are speaking. If you have an idea of how we can come up with solutions, go ahead and put it in the chat, and we'll address some of those as we read them as they come in. Officer George, you always have an interesting conversation with your group. What you got for us?
So my group, we did a little bit of role playing. They used their imaginations, and they thought about if they were Detroit police officers and they had a chance to work in any unit that they wanted to, what would they do to stop police harassment? And so we have Miss Tate, who is going to lead our group and talk about some of the solutions that they came up with. So Miss Tate.
I just want to make sure I got this. So you switched roles. You made them become police officers. Is that what we're saying?
Yep. And if they saw other police officers harassing citizens or visitors in Detroit, what would they do to stop that harassment?
That's a really good question. Okay.
So Miss Tate.
Miss Tate, it's showtime. Uh-oh, she getting shy on this. You might be on mute if you're trying to speak.
No, she's speaking.
She has an interpreter.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So our group talked about there was a white police officer and they saw Black people out there and they thought that they stole something and they wanted to go ahead and arrest them and grab them. And the person was like, I didn't do anything. It wasn't me. I'm innocent. I didn't do anything at all. But the police officer just automatically is very suspicious and thinks that, you know, yes, you did it. You need to go to jail. But you need to make sure that you're investigating it first, asking them questions before you just automatically assume that it's them. And we also talked about this experience that I had before. Some friends and I, we went and we were signing, you know, we're chatting away, and some police officers were looking at us and staring at us, and it made me feel uncomfortable. And I just thought, why are they staring at me? Well, just following me and watching every move that I made. And it seems like they got suspicious of us. And it just made me feel funny and uncomfortable. And my friends and I were just, all we were doing is chatting. And so it's just, police officers need to, you know, we need good cops. We need them to first investigate and not automatically assume things. And
Wow, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. That was really good. Love the comments from the youth. Just checking and not assuming things. That's a big part of avoiding police brutality.
I think for a lot of us, for the most part, that's what it is, that some of the police, they profile us and judge us before they can come and get to know the situation and understand the situation. They come to their own conclusion before they can actually understand the conclusion and what's really going on in the situation. I think for a lot of issues, that is the number one problem.
So I'll ask you, Allison, real briefly, why do you think those biases take place? Or if this is for anyone, again, you could type your answer in there, or you can wave your hand if you have a comment. Why do you think these implicit biases take place prior to even approaching one of our citizens? Why do you think some police officers have that bias? And again,
because of what our stereotypes bring. Because of what our stereotypes bring. Is as for anyone that is signing or hard of hearing, I think that if they were signing, minding their business, doing what they normally do in their everyday life, if a police officer who has no idea, has never spoken to a person that is hard of hearing, or has never been in that type of community or in that type of situation, they might automatically, especially if they are a person of, different color, I think it's easy to assume automatically they're throwing up gang signs. For someone that is ignorant and someone that has no idea what is going on, of course that would be an assumption. And even not even just for people that are hard of hearing, but also for people that, for Black men that, throw their hood on, they might walk around in the baggy pants all the time. They might do whatever they do in their everyday life. And they might not have, the police officer themselves might not have seen that in their everyday life, or they might not have experienced that. So when they see something like that, they automatically assume, because of stereotypes, there's trouble there. There's
Yeah,
a problem there that I need to go solve.
absolutely. Those are really good points. And stereotypes are big, and it's one of those things that people don't even know they do all the time, but it's one of those things that bias training can help with that, right? And I see a solution from Faith and Selena saying, I think a solution could be police officers taking a test to see if they have any prejudices, because prejudices of all kinds, especially racism, are a cause of police brutality.
We can always count on Faith to give her opinion. All right. Thank you. I love it.
I
I
see
love
also
it.
another comment. It would be great to have the schools add some civil rights training to the curriculum. Have any of the youth on the call participated in any training? Any youth on the call participated in any training? You can put it in the chat, or you can feel free to unmute at this time and share. Um, have another comment for our girls and ladies. Did your perception change after the Sandra George or Breonna Taylor incidents? Any girls that are familiar with the incidents? If you want to address that, go ahead and put your response in the chat. So Sandra Bland, sorry.
Yep.
And then lastly, another comment, the Academy should be a 2-year program that trains them, police officers, on emotional intelligence and the same skills as social workers educate on restorative practices. That's
Interesting.
good. I love those solutions.
Yes, solution
That's
driven.
what this is about.
Yep.
It's about solutions, right?
Yes, indeed. And with that being said, I want to make sure we get to our other groups here. I think Corporal Paisley had an interesting conversation with her group. Corporal Paisley, what went on in your group?
Yes, we did. We had some exciting conversation. We only had the two youth, but
Too strong.
yes, they were amazing. So I started out. I gave an example of a harassment situation, and then we did a scenario. And I let them be the one of them was the police officer, and the other one was the citizen.
Okay.
So Evan and KK did really good on that. So I'm gonna let Evan was the police officer. So I'm gonna let Officer Franklin take over here and tell us about his scenario and what we came up with as far as his actions. Him and his partner, Officer KK. Evan?
Okay.
Take over for us, Evan.
All right. So in my scenario, I am a police officer on patrol, and I see two Black men in, was it navy blue hoodies and black jeans, I think. And they were
the
spray.
run came out with what? Just tell them what the dispatcher gave you the run as the description of the clothing.
Oh yeah. That's so the dispatcher said two black identifiable or something like that as two Black men in navy blue hoodies and black pants. And I think it was spray paint on their shoes. So I had to in my mind, I see that they're spray painting and I see that they have spray paint on. Oh, they have backpacks too, by the way. They both have backpacks. So in my mind, I don't want to jump to conclusions and say that they're armed. So I'm going to proceed with caution, but be aware still and try to de-escalate the situation. Or sorry, not de-escalate because it hasn't escalated, but keep the situation from escalating and treat them with respect, even though they're kind of, I don't know if that's breaking the law but I know it's wrong at the end of the day. So I'd make sure to check out what they're doing and search them and maybe even cuff them for all of our safety during the search. And if they're not armed or if they don't have anything illegal on them, like drugs or weapons, then I would probably let them go and make sure that when I'm on patrol the next few days to make sure that they're not over there or spray painting. And depending on the damage done to the property, maybe even arrest them
So
if
you
that's
had,
necessary.
and that's interesting that you were the police officer, and you also said, Corporal Place, that there was someone playing the role of a citizen. How did the citizen feel in that scenario? Who was the citizen in that scenario?
No, we didn't have a citizen.
Okay.
Because it's just the two of them. So we just played it out as the officer and the partner approaching the suspects that fit the description. So we just kind of got into, coming upon them and what would you do, with the description of the clothing.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So Officer Evan would just kind of see what's happening before he took any major action.
Absolutely.
Got it.
A little investigation prior to. That's kind of similar to what Allison was saying. Don't just approach and assume. Investigate, have some conversation, find out, a
So
little bit about the situation.
I see a hand from Jermel Mitchell. Jermel, you want to make a comment or ask a question or say something?
I want to ask something like, can I be a policeman with wearing hearing aids?
Oh,
that is a good question. I know that there is a hearing test. I don't know if Sergeant Hall is on here or Sergeant Kelsey, because we still have to hear from your group. Do you have information on that? If there's someone that may be hearing impaired, can they be a police officer?
Yeah, this is Sergeant Hall. I was going to say, the Detroit Police Department, we make sure that any accommodations are, that we make any for any accommodations. So that will be up to our recruiting team. So don't let that discourage you. Any kind of, we comply with all ADA.
So yes, there's a possibility.
Absolutely.
I believe that you can do anything you put your mind to. So definitely pursue it if you're interested in it. And I want to take a quick moment. We have a poll question in the chat. As a youth, would you be interested in civil rights training? Type a yes, a Y for yes, or a N for no.
Yeah.
As a youth, would you be interested in civil rights training? Just put your answer in the chat. Y for yes or N for no.
And while they're doing that, Sergeant Kelsey, I think you are we have not heard from you yet. What took place in your group? Getting a lot of Y's, and it's interesting. Okay.
So from my group, the overall thing was police brutality sucks. We kind of learned about the force continuum, actually. Aiden brought that up, which was great. And I didn't mention it at all. And he brought it up to, when you're trying to detain someone, when you know what? I'll let Aiden continue on that.
Okay, so I was saying, like, okay, so say you have just anyone that is, okay, say you're going out, you got like a warrant for somebody's arrest or something, and they're being extra aggressive to you. I was saying that, like, at the start, you shouldn't just like immediately just run in and just like try to like hit them or anything. You got to go in peacefully. What I was saying, you should go in. If I was an officer, I would go in peacefully, and then if they just keep like pushing it and pushing it, then I would like if I really needed to, if it was absolutely necessary, I would tase them or maybe use a rubber bullet. I don't know how much those hurt or if you guys use them, but yeah, I think if it's absolutely necessary, you should tase them. But I think there's absolutely no reason if they're being just like peaceful with it to like attack them or anything.
Cool, cool. So thank you very much for that, Aiden. So I see most of people say yes, they would be interested in some type of training, civil rights training. But there was a couple of no's, and I appreciate those no's. I want to hear from Ava. What type of training would you be interested in, uh, or you think that police should take part in, if you have one in mind, or even Trevion, I'm sorry. What type of training? Because uh, we go by what the citizens want us to do, what we think will be most effective. So right now we're looking for ideas. Ava, if you had an idea on what type of training you think would be effective, that would be helpful, we'd like to hear it.
Um, like, okay, is civil rights training pretty much like a government class? Like learning your rights and whatnot?
Yep.
Okay, but I mean, I feel like that's an important class. I guess the reason I said no is because I in government class we went over our rights and like rights as adults and citizens and stuff in school already. Like I wouldn't want to take it again.
Okay. Understandable, understandable. But just know that you're speaking for yourself, and we do appreciate that. Do you think that would be something that officers who have not had that training, do you think it would be helpful for them, or
Yeah.
any other type of training?
Definitely, because knowing your rights is one of the most important things when it comes to things going wrong or police brutality. Just like we said in my group earlier, that people learn that we can record what's going on now and post on social media to gain awareness and yeah.
Cool. Thank you for that. We have a special treat for each and every one of you. It's the video. Some of you may have seen it, some of you may not have seen it. But as we are getting ready to show that video, I want you guys to think about something. If you wanted to exercise your right to free speech and you wanted to put it on a t-shirt against police brutality, what would your t-shirt say? What would your t-shirt say to combat police brutality? Go ahead and type it in there while we get that video set up for you. You're going to exercise your right to free speech. You get to design your own t-shirt to combat police brutality. What would your t-shirt say? All right.
That's interesting. What would your t-shirt say, Corporal Norwood?
What would my t-shirt say? Mine would actually say, I am a person too. That's what my t-shirt would say. Yep. And on the back, treat me as such. Right. But I'm interested to know, what would yours say? Sergeant Hall, what would yours say? Autumn, what would yours say? Anybody, what would your t-shirt say?
Steel Hughes said, be the change.
That's
Love
a very
that.
good one. Be the change.
We also had a comment from Sergeant Hall, and he's just informing all the youth on the call. He said he's going to find out if DPD is still doing ride-alongs with Detroit Police Patrol officers. Because if you're 18 years old, you can do a ride-along at any Detroit police precinct, and it's a great way to see an idea or have an idea of what DPD officers do in an 8-hour shift. And he said, of course, this is pending approval due to the COVID-19 pandemic, but DPD typically does allow ride-along. So you can experience that as youth, 18 and older.
Cool. Yeah. Dalen, what would your t-shirt say? I wonder to combat youth violence. Faith, I know you have something to say. Please give it to us. Right. I'm looking for everyone. If you have a t-shirt, what would it say? Just what would your t-shirt say? Yeah.
Stop hitting us. Give me a chance to serve you. Those are good.
Oh, those are good ones. Those are good ones. We are people. All right. Aiden, what would your t-shirt say? Timothy, what would your t-shirt say? All right. And while we getting that together, do we have the video ready? Are we ready for the video?
Yeah, let's hear the video. You know, we talk about what are some solutions, how can we combat police brutality. When I think about what you said earlier, Corporal Norwood, about leadership, about Chief Craig, and how he upholds a high standard when it comes to police officers, I think about the importance of leadership and how that can impact police brutality as a whole and decrease it if we have the right leaders in place. So we have a video here by Yellow Pain talking about voting, which is one way to decrease police brutality. I believe you can share what you can let us know how the chief is elected. Is the chief elected? Is he appointed? And how does that work? But
Yeah, so voting comes into play because everyone above the rank of lieutenant in the Detroit Police Department is appointed. So our chief is appointed by the mayor. And of course, we all know that we vote for the mayor. So being involved of the political process, at least knowing who the candidates are and what they stand for and who they might appoint to serve you as police chief or captain or anything of that nature. So this video, I think, really relates to being empowered even as a youth, because many of you will be able to vote at the next presidential election. So I think it's interesting and it's done in an artful way. So I enjoy it every time that I see it.
all right, awesome. Thank you. Let's see it.
Let's take a look.
Electoral votes, more than 270, more than enough to become the 44th president of the United States. He will be the first African-American president of the United States.
I've been broke all my life, but I kept hope all them nights. You see business in my city? Yeah, they closed all them twice. I was just riding down Salem, all them damn potholes, I can't drive. I know y'all can fix it faster, but I know y'all won't try. Don't nobody care about us, and that's why I don't vote. Voted for Obama back in 2012. I remember that's when I had hope. He was saying, yes, we can. And everybody got less food stamps. And when I turned 21, I was still broke. I'd never vote again. I don't think I ever had a president make my life better. Did it all on my own. Ain't no politician ever do a nice gesture. I don't even know the mayor's name. I ain't never seen her one time ever. Tell me how she gonna help the city. What I'm supposed to do, write letters? What I'm supposed to do, blame Trump? He ain't never really gave her. Ain't nobody raised minimum wage. None of these jobs pay enough. I think they just want to keep us broke, cause they ain't putting nothing in place for us. This how all my people feel, but we gotta learn. We complain enough, let me change it up. Everything I just said, everybody I know think the same way. See, they don't want to see us vote, and we never do, so we see the same thing. But all our votes really do count, and they'll never really let it show. So now I'm finna break it down, cause if I don't, you would probably never know. First thing first, you know back in middle school when they taught us, it was 3 branches of the government. We forgot it when we got older. It's the judicial, the legislative, and executive. But all we know is the executive. That's the mayor, or the governor, and the president. Now none of them 3 people make no laws, they just be checking them. The laws come to their desk and all they do is say no or yes to it. So when the news station tried to tell us that Barack Obama couldn't put us on, we was all salty at Obama when...
Looks like there's a slight little technical difficulty.
But you know what? That's fine. We'll address it, but it's about time for them to go into their second breakout session, actually.
Yeah, but I think we did get to the point of that video. The main point is that there are 3 levels of government that require voting to take place. It's the judicial, the legislative, and the executive branches. And there's a lot of focus on the presidential election, which and also the other parts of the executive branch, which includes the mayor, which they're very important, and we definitely need to vote because that's our leadership for our country and our states. But we also need to pay attention to who we are electing as our state representatives, and who is actually in office making the laws. And again, like you said before, Corporal Norwood, it's important that we understand who those people are, what their track records are, what they stand for, and do they have your best interest in at heart. Some of you are 14 years old. You'll definitely be old enough to vote in the next presidential election. Some of you are 18, you can vote now. Some of you have influence on your parents because when you say I want pizza, they buy pizza. When you say I want these shoes or I want this coat, they buy it right when they are able to. And so youth, you have a voice and you have influence on the adults even in your lives. So if you know they're not voting, encourage them to vote, and not just for the president, but also during the elections that take place every 2 years.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you can get, you don't really have to wait that long to get involved with it. I know a lot of schools and youth groups have government groups. We even have a youth voice council here at Detroit PAL where we like to get the youth's opinion. If you're interested in that, we'll give that information on how you can join, how you can start that process of being a leader and coming up with solutions. You don't have to be a PAL kid. You didn't have to play any sport or anything like that. So we welcome you to start that process of leadership right here with us with the Youth Voice Council. Yes, yeah. So cool. So again, you're just joining us here on Facebook. We are with Ford Motor Company Fund, Critical Conversations. And this week we're talking about police harassment and brutality and how can we combat that with positive solutions.
All right, so I think now we are officially ready to go into the breakout rooms.
So again, you guys will go with your officer, with your ideas, with your energy, share your ideas, and he or she will lead you with the next group of discussions. Those watching on Facebook Live are going to hang out here with me and Maria and Allison and our CEO, Robert Jameson. All right. So as they're doing that, we will see you guys in about 20 minutes with all your great ideas. Everyone else, just hold on a second here with us. Yeah, Maria, I thought that was a very powerful video. I love the artistic way. I know that if I was taught in that way when I was younger, I probably would have been better at a lot of subjects, right?
I'm trying to tell you, I have learned about the 3 branches of government so many times in my life, but it never stuck until I heard it in that rap.
Yeah, right. Everyone learns differently. So this one stuck with me. And yes, they did have school back then when I went.
To help it stick a little better.
Yeah.
And that's what's important. We want the kids to get it, and we want them to remember what they experience here, what they learn here, and be able to walk away with it with some actionable steps that they can take, solutions that they can apply, or that they can encourage others to engage in right away.
Absolutely. I know we had Sergeant Hall. He was doing some research for us, helping us out, trying to get some answers for us. Sergeant Hall, I know you've been busy doing that. What were you working on and what did you come up with?
Hey, give me 1 minute, please. I just sent you something in the message too. Just give me 1 minute.
No problem. No problem. Cool. Cool. So Allison, have you seen that video before?
No, never.
No. Yeah. So from what you've heard, because I know it was cut a little short, what were your takeaways from that as you talked about the different branches of government and how you can make an impact yourself?
Well, me personally, I agree with Maria. Not with the video, not that didn't stick after the video, but I'm sure any of the youth can agree with me. I don't learn more of anything than I've ever learned in my life unless I learn it on TikTok. I'm so serious, which is so sad for our youth and our teachers and our education system, because I already learned about the 3 branches of government when I was younger, but they never got brought back up until I started on TikTok and they started talking about our rights and police brutality and harassment and gay rights and people and women's rights. And I never learned more until I started watching TikTok and being more socialized with the people my age and people a little younger than me, people around my age. I've never learned more until I was surrounded by people that were like-minded, really.
Man, we are so lucky during this times, especially young people, that we have things like TikTok and Instagram and those things where there's so much negativity on these platforms. But think about what we can do if we put something on there positive, something like this video, or even you, Allison, you started your own following, your own page, and you got a large list of followers as a leader. Think about how impactful you could be just as a high school student. And I wish we had more of that, so that we can learn about these issues, so that we can learn and be more empowering to ourselves and to our community. That's interesting that you said that, because Lord knows they did not have TikTok back when I was in high school. Right?
And I think learning and listening to our youth could definitely help a lot of us. Like, we never realize how much we can learn from us until we really sit down and think, wow, they do pay attention to what's going on around them. We do pay attention to what's going on around us. We might not know everything, but we definitely want to know more.
Yes, yes.
Love that. And I just want, I mean, I think that I like to think that your experience with Detroit Power has helped you to really have a voice, and that you're going to carry on the torch as you grow older, to be able to reach back to youth and ensure that they continue to have a voice. So thank you for that.
I mean, absolutely. I've been with PAL, not just with the broadcasting journalism program, but I've been with PAL running track and doing sports and everything since I was, I want to say, 5 years old. If I don't know anybody that has my back, I know the people in Detroit PAL have my back. Absolutely.
Oh,
Aw, our family.
Oh, cut it out.
I told myself I wasn't going to cry. No, but you've been awesome, and you've been a great influence to your peers. So again, thank you for that. I know I've been knowing you for a number of years now, and you've always come through. So keep up the good work.
Yes,
Glad.
superstar.
I see Sergeant Hall is back. Is
Yeah,
everything?
hi. So what I just said, what I gathered, obviously everybody knows that for the Detroit Police Department, we have OCI, which is Office of the Chief Investigator, and basically a civilian, AKA non-police. Some of them may have been former police officers, but it's a civilian board, basically, that's charged with taking all complaints for any type of allegation of service or some type of, if you're wronged by the police, if you think you're wronged by the police, then you can file a complaint. And I think somebody touched on that, but just to reiterate it, you can go to a precinct, you can dial the precinct telephone number, or if it's something really, really, really serious, 911, if you need to get a supervisor there. I want to be crystal clear that a supervisor that comes is supposed to be neutral. So I'm for instance, me, Sergeant Kelsey, we just took a test and did a couple things, and then we were promoted to sergeant. We're all police officers, but it was just different rank structure. So if someone came to me and said, "Hey, Corporal Norwood, he treated me bad," which I know that doesn't happen, not with Corporal Norwood. But if that happened, even though I know him, I have to take that complaint as a supervisor for the police department. So once again, I can have a good conversation with Corporal Norwood, but if you tell me that he used profane language to you, some type of violation of our, of our manual, our general orders, then, I have to take that and they're going to investigate it. And if he's found, guilty of it, then, it's a process, what happens, and if it's any type of if it's a complaint that said Corporal Norwood took money or something, then the Office of the Chief Investigator or that supervisor will forward it to our Internal Affairs Division. So it was a question that came up about, I think, harassment or so, what to do about, harassment. So, or how many complaints. So I found right there just for September, I found there were 99 was 99 complaints filed in September against DPD members, and that's the entire police department. So it can sound like a large number or maybe not a large number. You know, we have over what, I know probably with 2,000 or 3,000.
Yeah, I think it's like 2,500 officers. And when you think about how many calls that happen per precinct on a particular shift, I'm guessing on average, maybe each car gets at least 10 calls a night. And you multiply that by all of our precincts, and you multiply that by all of our shifts. And that's just the patrol units. That doesn't encounter or doesn't take into account our specialized units. So with that being said, it sounds like there's a lot of interaction between police and the citizens. And although 99 complaints may not seem large to some, it's still 99 too many, I would imagine. Right.
So I know that there are complaints that happen, and there is harassment that takes place. I know one of the things that we are actively doing to combat that is, our mission here at Detroit PAL, yes, is to help you find the greatness, but it's also to bridge the gap between the police and the community, and we do that through community policing. And we want to play a quick video to show you, just about a minute long, some of our officers engaging with little kickers and teaching them about our GREAT model, specifically about accountability. So I think that video is ready to go. Let's go ahead and play that if it is ready.
So Barry, you mentioned
As
GREAT.
we're waiting for it to come up, I think our CEO might have had a question as well.
Oh yeah, this question is for Allison. So I told you I'd come back to you and follow up.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people, witnessed the George Floyd, I call it incident or tragedy. During that time, I know it impacted everyone, impacted me. How, are you familiar with that for sure, Allison? How did that change anything in regards to your voice or anything about what took place with that and how people seem to rally around that particular incident?
I mean, in a way, it kind of pushed me to the forefront of the situation because I already have a platform where I speak out and I let people know my voice needs to be heard. And if you don't want to hear it, you have no choice. So, in a way, it kind of really made me have to choose a side, or they tried to make me choose a side. I still didn't, because it's just like, I do what I want to do at the end of the day. But it kind of drew more attention to me because a lot of people said, you have the platform, you have that chance to speak up, why don't you do it? And I did. I chose to let people know my opinions. I chose to let people know this is where I stand with this, and if you don't like it, then I apologize and I'm so sorry, but we have a difference in opinions and you can just not listen to my voice. It's an easy way to block my social media. It's an easy way to just completely delete me on everything. You do not have to look at my face ever again, but know that I'm going to voice my opinion and I'm going to say something regardless. I don't believe it's right for them to have been doing the protesting in Detroit specifically. But at the same time, I do agree when they say the police needs to hear our voice. When we speak up and we want to say something, we need to be heard, because at the end of the day, like I stated before, the youth has something to say. Y'all could learn a lot from us if a lot of people would give us the chance to speak up and say what we need to say. So
Thank you. Yeah, I totally agree. The youth definitely have a lot to say, and I am really grateful for you for coming on and sharing your viewpoint and speaking on behalf of your peers as a Youth Voice Council here at Detroit PAL. Now, again, we are doing some things as a part of community policing to improve community police relations. And here this is a quick 1-minute video that shows some of our police officers in action at a practice for one of our sports programs, Little Kickers.
Our A word of the week is called what? Accountability. And accountability means what? Responsibility. And at home, your parents might have you responsible for what?
Cleaning. Taking care of cat, dogs, food, and water.
Okay. Taking care of the cats and dogs, food, and water. What else is something your parents might have you responsible for at home? Listen up. Nope, we're listening. Doing your chores. Okay. What is something else you might be responsible for at home? Cleaning your room. What is another one, Gideon? Taking care of the fish and the bunny. So listen, this week is about accountability, which means we're going to be responsible because we're Little Kickers and we're playing in the Detroit Police Athletic League, and we just had a good practice. I need everybody on their feet so we can bring it in. Little Kickers on 3. 1, 2, 3.
My goodness, that's adorable.
Hey.
That kind of stuff happens all the time here at Detroit Pal, right?
Yes, indeed. And being a part of that, it was really awesome. The parents loved it. The kids loved it. I can't wait to do it again. It really lets you know that you're serving a great purpose here, that you're making a difference, at least for those 2 hours a day.
Mm-hmm. And the main thing is that relationships are being built. The thing I noticed was that that was Officer George in that video, and he had his gun on his hip.
Yep.
And it was just more of a sense of protection and safety rather than a threat.
Yeah.
And that relationship was truly built, that mutual respect and trust was truly built during those sessions, those 7 weeks of Little Kickers with the police officers, with the parents, and with the youth.
Yeah, great program. What's so cool, we always say we want to see the kids running towards us instead of away from us. And I've talked to a few parents. I know Robert talked to a few parents also. They were saying that some of their kids, that was the highlight of their week, coming to the Little Kickers and Little Sluggers sessions twice a week here at the corner ballpark. And when you know that the kids are asking to come to something and the parents are actually bringing them, that's a really good feeling. And we just want to do more of that programming. And I wish I was a Little Kicker right now because I had just as much fun as the kids did, right?
Yeah.
And it wasn't only about sports. So as you mentioned earlier, Maria, it was about the GREAT model, where each one stands for a certain topic. G is for goal setting. So we talked about goal setting, and resilience is the R. And embracing healthy lifestyles is the E. A is accountability, and of course teamwork. Under our great leadership from again Robert Jameson, this was one of his great ideas that he have here, and we're very thankful to have him here with those things. It's something that's catchy, something that kids can remember, and we just want to keep expanding. Even during the pandemic, we're still doing great things in the community.
Absolutely. And I want to give our CEO a moment to speak, and I think he might have a question for Allison as well.
No, Allison had me fired up. I was like, I need to go protest. I'll be standing behind you all the way. Just encouraging to hear a voice, right? We talk about good trouble, right? And there's some good trouble to be had. And sometimes you're going to shake some people up, but we encourage your voice. And I love just hearing your voice. What I loved about that video was just Officer George knowing the names of the kids. And it may seem like a small thing, but when you talk about respect is when someone can call your name out and has learned your name. And we know how difficult it can be to learn names. So you have to really become connected with someone to know that person. And that just shows what the programs are at Detroit PAL, meaning that every kid is important, every youth is important to have a voice. So I'm encouraged by this here and love the conversations here. Allison, I probably got 1,000 questions for you. just because I love having that perspective. So with that, we always talk about the march, right? What happens before the march? You know, something happens, now you start marching. So what have you done since that incident that you think is making a difference in your area, your space?
Well, for the most part, I still let people know that because of the fact that, you know, not only was the March Against Police Brutality and March Against Police Harassment a thing, but it was also a march for Black Lives Matter. And not only Black Lives Matter, but not in a sense, but really it was for Black Lives Matter. And for what I've been doing, I've been letting people know that Black Lives Matter is not just a trend. It's not just something you can post every once in a while, or you can say it here and there just because it's relevant in that moment. Black lives are relevant in every moment, as well as every other life. So it's not just only Black Lives Matter. All lives matter, but all lives matter can't matter till Black Lives Matter along with every other life. You can't say every life matters if you exclude any other lives, especially if it's not just Black lives, it's other people, as in, you know, Hispanic lives, Dominican lives, Latina lives. Every life matters, and until Black Lives Matter, no other life can matter, because exclude one life from every other ethnicity and every other race. It makes no sense.
Mhm.
Those are some very, very powerful words. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Yeah, Allison, let me ask you this. If you were chief of police, what would be the first thing you would do as chief?
Ooh, the first thing.
Or one of the first things you would address?
The first thing I would do is I would make everybody, not just who work for me or who are working with me, feel comfortable with the other people that I'm going to be representing, as in the youth, the people that I'm going to have to investigate someday, the people that I'm going to have to be in their face. I'm going to have to, at some point, get to know them someday. I'm going to make those people feel comfortable. So I'm going to let the public know you can come to these meetings if you want to. You can do the ride-alongs if you're over the age of 18. You can do this because a lot of times I had no idea you could do ride-alongs if you were over the age of 18. I just learned that today.
Will you
I
share
didn't
that
know
with
that.
your friends?
I will definitely share that with my friends. Hey, you can do a police ride-along if you're over the age of 18. You can do this, you can do that. You can attend these public meetings because they are for you to understand more about the police, so that if an incident ever does happen, you shouldn't be scared.
Absolutely.
That would definitely be the first thing I would do. Assess comfortability within my group or within my community.
And it sounds like you are solution driven, that you want to tackle things before they get out of hand. It sounds like you're
Definitely.
community oriented. And those are some of the things that we're trying to do here, especially at Detroit PAL with all of our programs. Again, you know, sports is our bread and butter. But as you know, we do other things besides sports. For example, I mentioned the Youth Voice Council or the sports broadcasting and journalism classes, those Tiny Tigers sessions where we not only handle sports, but we did activities. We actually did activities with the parents as well. Had them right there on the field, laid out with cardboard and stickers and magic markers and doing these projects. And many of the parents said those same poster boards are sitting up in their child's room as a reminder of how to become great. So
And
as
on that
definitely
topic,
follow
I
you.
mean, we're doing so many great things here at Detroit Power. We're serving as a model. The purpose of this session is to create a sense of rest when there was unrest in our community. Rest meaning removing implicit bias, creating empathy, coming up with positive solutions, and then the biggest part, expanding, taking this program nationally, so that others can reap the benefits of this type of dialogue. And so, with that in mind, we'll love to talk about defunding the police. And what does that mean? Should we do it? If we defund the police, what does that mean for community policing? I'm curious about that because in my mind, if you defund the police, the first thing that's got to go is probably community policing or some facet of it, because you need the core component of safety
Yeah,
that comes along with policing, right?
absolutely.
So what are any thoughts on that? And Allison, too, would love to hear your thoughts, and some of the other youth as they're coming back from the breakout rooms.
And we're talking about, as a youth, we're talking about the topic of defunding the police. So my interpretation of it, because I'm still a little unsure exactly what takes place, but my understanding is that when you talk about defunding the police, they're taking money away from the police department and putting it into prevention programs outside of the police department, which in itself doesn't sound like a bad thing, but at what expense? Usually, our bread and butter at the police department is the patrol units, those who answer the 911 calls. But there are so many of them. And as we know that there are other issues going on that a normal 911 call wouldn't address. So we're talking, missing persons, we're talking, accidents or things of that nature. We're talking investigations. There would be some suffering in those departments if you're talking about defunding the police. Even if we're talking about equipment, maybe you don't get the latest equipment to give to your police officers. So there's a take and give with that. So like you said, Maria, I'm interested to know what people think about that.
Well, welcome everyone. Welcome back. Oh, go ahead, Allison, and then I want to hear your comment, Allison, and then I want us to play our video. We do have a video before we get into the breakout room discussion, feedback from the breakout rooms. We do have a video that shows one of our efforts here at Detroit PAL to bridge the gap between community and the police and create a positive environment for both civilians and law enforcement.
So right before you speak, Allison, just let everyone know as they're coming back what you're speaking on so they can be up to par with us.
Okay, we are speaking on defunding the police, and we want to know what that means and really the way around it, or is it a good idea? So defunding the police basically is taking money away from those police departments or underfunding them to give money to the places that are underfunded, like schools with education and mental and also sports, just places that are underfunded and things that are underfunded in general. I have a 1-in-1, like a 50-50 perception on it. I don't think it's all the way right because, like you stated, Officer Norwood, there's a lot of stuff with the police. If you defund the police, it's gonna have to stop. It's gonna have to cut immediately. It's gonna have to cut in all. So if we defund the police, we're not treating policemen as people, I want to say. So in a lot of
cutbacks, yeah,
there will be a lot of cutbacks to a lot of things that matter.
Right.
And
So we mentioned things like maybe equipment that police officers have, the training, things of that
stuff
nature.
that they need to not only help them but to help us, because it's not just about them protecting themselves, it's about them protecting us also. So when they say defund the police, I don't think it's all the way right. I wouldn't completely agree with it. I would say, yes, those places do need money. Schools do need money. The mental institutions, they do need money. But we have to also pay attention to the fact that policemen are people too, and we can't treat them like animals. We can't just take away everything from them and expect everything to not completely fall apart at some point.
Very
How
well
you can see
said.
both sides of that and be able to rationalize, that shows emotional intelligence, which is one of those things that was recommended that police should have training on, emotional intelligence, just understanding both sides and making rational decisions based on that. So we're talking about defunding the police. We're also talking about Detroit PAL and what we represent in the community in terms of helping to combat some of the issues we see in our community or in other communities outside of Detroit. And one of the ways we do that, one of the ways we combat issues between the police and the community is through community policing, where the police get to know their communities that they're serving, and vice versa, the community gets to know the police that are serving them. And we have a video that we're going to play for you guys that shows Detroit PAL in action here doing a community policing event at Detroit PAL, one of many that we do year round. Love that. Love that video. We have so many of them. So much great work that's being done here at Detroit PAL. Did you guys see the helicopter?
Yep. That was a special surprise orchestrated by Officer Mike there. Thank you, Officer Mike.
Thank you. I mean, the smiles on the kids' faces, the mutual trust and respect is what we were talking about when you all were back in the breakout rooms. That's established between the police, the youth, their parents. Um, it is absolutely priceless. And when the police know their community on a personal level like that, you can't help but serve and protect. So more of that. And so when we think about defunding the police, um, we don't want to do that if it's at the expense of programs like this that are helping to create the very solution we seek. That's just my 2 cents on it.
So speaking of solutions, I know some solutions were talked about in our individual group sessions. And I'm interested to hear about these solutions because we know the problem. Everyone knows about harassment and brutality and what it is and what it looks like. But we want to take it a step further with your opinions. So I want to go start off with Sergeant Kelsey in your group. Did you have any solution-driven conversation or what did you guys talk about?
All right, I'm back. I won't get booted out this time. But I heard Aiden took over and he did a wonderful job. So, but I knew that anyway. So in our conversation, we had a couple questions that we went over, and let me make sure I get the right questions. One of them was, as a youth, do you feel targeted or do you feel protected by the police?
Good
and
question.
Alex, what did you say?
Do you feel protected or
targeted?
I said because I never have a bad experience with the police, I feel protected.
Well, we appreciate that. I think I could speak for the whole entire Detroit Police Department. We're very excited that you feel protected. So that means we're doing something right. Thank you, Alex. Thank you.
Right. And then we also said, Dalen, if you don't agree with the police officer, what should you do?
if you don't agree, you still got to be calm because either way, agree or disagree, you got to be calm. You don't want to send any mixed signals. And maybe depending on what you're arguing about, you could ask for a secretary or something. I know it began with S, I think.
Supervisor.
Yeah, supervisor.
Right.
Yeah. Hey, he knew it began with S. He knew he could ask somebody.
That's right.
That's the main point.
And that's important.
Absolutely.
But you can ask someone.
Right. And you were actually speaking to a supervisor. Sergeant Kelsey is a supervisor. So you got a chance to speak to one directly. How about that? Cool. All right. So let's move on. I want to hear from Officer George. We saw you in the video with the little kickers. People loved it. I still love every time I watch that. But what are some of the things that came out of your group, Officer George?
Yep. So we did another engaging exercise where our kiddos had to build a cop, and they were tasked with building a cop with good qualities. And what were those good qualities? And so we have Timothy, who's going to talk about some of those qualities.
Is that something like Build a Bear? You put all the good qualities that you want inside of a cop?
Hey, this is,
love it.
they say this is season, right? People building bears right now for gifts. Absolutely. So this is their gift to us.
Well, let's see what your cop look like. Who are we talking to again?
Timothy.
Timothy. If you were building a cop, what does it look like?
Well, we were just saying, I said myself that cops, yeah, they should be a part of the community. They should also be the community. Like they should be human. They should say hi to someone when they walk by. They should act like a normal person and not some elite entity. But like when they do have to help someone, yeah, that it is their job, and they should that's why I like that video, because like I like to see the cops and the people living in the community coming together, because you can't order people around that you don't even know, or like what they're doing, or just like you have to know the people you're talking to.
Very good point. I agree. And that's what we try to do here, especially at Detroit PAL. And for example, we're having these conversations right here. So we're trying to get to know you guys. So the more you give us, the more information we have, and the better we can build those bridges. Thanks, Timothy. Anyone else from your group, Officer George, or should we move on? Timothy, you want to say something again?
Yeah, it looks like he wants to say something.
Also, yeah, I don't think we should defund the police. Because just like imagine what like the deep war zone, like what all the thugs and all the people who are not obeying the law, they would just go crazy. Like if there were no cops, and like so many lives would be at stake. And not only that, the police officers, like they have families. Some of them have families that they have to provide for. So and without giving them money, that's also less motivation for them to even help us. And so, yeah, that's why I think defunding the police is not a good idea at all.
We did not pay him to say that.
Hey, we didn't at all.
Not at all. I do want Timothy to know, and everyone else to know, that I know I can speak for the officers here and most officers in Detroit. We don't do it for the money. It would be nice to give that raise you want to give us, Mayor Timothy. We'll definitely take it, but we're not here for the money. We're here because we all chose to serve our community. This is something that we chose to do. So, but we're very thankful of that. So much appreciated. Let's move on to the most animated officer in all of the land.
We have about 10 minutes. Just
Officer Mike.
yes. Come on, Sergeant Mike.
We got a couple of more groups to get to. So what do you have there, Mike?
All right, yep. So I know we don't have a whole lot of time, so I'll just get straight to it.
we were kind of tasked with talking about one of the biggest sources of kind of police contention in 2020, which is George Floyd, and kind of what could have been done differently, or if race plays a factor in it, or what we would actually like to see police officers do if they find themselves in a situation like what we all saw with George Floyd. So there's really no concrete right or wrong answer. We had some beautiful conversation. We're gonna go ahead and have Faith lead the way, and Jamerica's gonna be your backup there. Go ahead.
So we kind of debunked the George Floyd situation. We kind of talked about how it made us feel, a lot of us felt really unsafe after watching it. I kind of talked about how it makes me feel like really unsafe outside of Detroit, just because a lot of the time when I go to a different city that's not Detroit, I'm around a lot of people that don't look like me, and it makes me feel like what happens to some of me or my friends. We also kind of talked about some solutions or what could have happened differently. We kind of talked about how the police officer should probably had some type of racial bias, probably was racist, and that could have been prevented if police officers took bias training or took a test to see if they have any of that type of stuff so that they can eliminate it. We also talked about his use of force and how a police officer's goal should probably always be to de-escalate the situation. Even if they need to restrain someone, their goal should be just to de-escalate it and not make it something where violence is being really used.
Excellent. Solution driven. Go ahead there, Mike.
And I believe and correct me if I'm wrong. I think she meant we debriefed, not debunked it.
Yeah.
Because we got a chance to dig in there, and a very large topic, lots of different opinions on it, and what could have gone right or wrong there. But just some really good conversation, and wish we had more time to share.
Cool.
And can I just add just real quickly? I just want everyone to know, I don't know if you kept up with the story of the George Floyd incident, but all the officers involved were held accountable for that. All of them were terminated, and they all faced some type of charge, for his fate.
Mm-hmm. And that's good to know. They're facing legal charges right now. So thanks for bringing that up. So since you spoke, let's go to your group. What came out of your group?
Okay, so we talked about a few things. I know we're running out of time, so I'll say all three of them, and then I'll give each youth the opportunity to speak about it. So the question that I gave to them is, what action should I take when speaking with a police officer under any circumstances? And then the next one was, when being approached by police officers, what are your expectations from that police officer? And then we did talk a little bit on what makes a good police officer. What qualities does a good police officer, or what qualities should a police officer have? So that's some good stuff.
Answer one of those questions, and then let's allow the youth to put their responses in the chat for the other two. Just for the sake of time.
Okay, who wants to go first? All of them had something to say. So Evan, or let's go with KK, because we always put Evan up to it. He's always so willing and just so awesome. But KK had a lot to say today as well. So KK, you want to speak on? We'll do the one with the qualities of a good officer.
Yep. And everyone else can put their comments in there. What qualities should police officers possess? Everybody do that as well. As we
Officer Paisley, Corporal Paisley's group.
Yep.
KK?
Let's hear it, KK. You got, it's on you. The stage is yours.
Just speak about a couple of the good qualities that we said a good officer should have.
They should be respectful, and one of the officers said they should have courtesy.
Was that courtesy? Absolutely. Was Officer Paisley courteous to you? Courteous to you? Uh-oh.
KK?
If your officer was courteous to you in your group, just give me a thumbs up, right? Because we need a report card as well. If your officer in your group was courteous, give a thumbs up. If they wasn't so courteous, it's okay. Give them one. If you thought they was terrible, we'll take that too. We'll take that. As long as you're truthful, we'll take whatever it is. All right.
And all that cash I dished out.
All right. Cool. Because remember, Maria, as you mentioned every week, we do acknowledge participation. So we just may have something special for this participation. I don't know if it carries on to this week, but it just might. Cool.
It does carry on for this week. So I was looking at the chat, but yes, we are going to give away 2 gift cards today. So in the next 4 minutes, we will announce.
And our producers are already giving us some possible candidates as we're looking here on the monitor. Okay, cool. All right. Did we get to all the groups? Did we miss anyone?
While we're waiting on that, just our CEO Robert Jamerson has a comment.
Yeah, I have a question. I know Sergeant Hall, we've been having a couple questions going back and forth around mental health. And so what I hear a lot of times is that even if something hasn't happened to you, that there still can be some trauma that's occurred when it comes to just seeing something and being exposed to it, similar to the George Floyd incident. It can be traumatic and it can cause you to feel anxiety in those types of things. And just want people to know that it's important to let people know if you are experiencing any of those types of things, talking to your parent, but then there are specialists that can help you, and it's okay to ask for help. And so I'll turn it over to Sergeant Hall just to kind of speak a little to what that, how that happens and what they do in the police department when it comes to the trauma that they sometimes may be exposed to and how they deal with it.
So I'll make it quick. I just want to let you guys know that we have like an employee assistance program. Also, we have something called a peer support team, and that team reaches out to individuals who were involved in a traumatic incident. Could I tell you guys, it's not normal for us to see, somebody involved in a bad accident and lives lost, or it's not normal for us to see, someone hurt, shot, killed, dead bodies, or anything like that. That's not normal. So it can get to an officer mind. It can cause a traumatic experience. So we have people people who are trained professionals that are here to help us out. So just know that we all need help and we welcome help. Officers are not perfect by any means. We're human beings first.
No, thank you for sharing that. And what I love about that is just the transparency in that all of us need help. And it doesn't matter what age you are, doesn't define how tough you are, doesn't define your faith. There are times when we all can become weak and we need help. The T stands for teamwork, and it's great to have a team of people that are here to support and know that your voice matters. So just fortunate to have people here that can speak open and honestly about the need to have support. So just wanted to make sure we didn't leave this session without speaking to just the importance of seeking and asking for help when sometimes situations or experiences can be overwhelming, even if it hasn't directly affected or happened to you. So
I think in a funny way, a really, really funny way, a police officer can remind you of a parent because of the fact that we always see parents doing what they do. We always see officers doing what they do as their job. They always provide, they always help, they always do what they're supposed to be doing, and they get what they deserve for it. But we never ask about their mental health. We never simply sit down and ask an officer or a parent if they're okay. A lot of times the parent may be literally going through their day, just going through the motions because they have to put on a smile for their kid. They have to put on a smile and have to be okay for the person that they're raising to make sure they know that, hey, I'm here for you, but they might not be okay mentally or emotionally. And in a lot of ways, police are like that too. We don't ask them if they're okay. We have no idea what they're going through. We have no idea what they've seen, because on the job, it can be so much that you see, so much that you go through, and those things can be really traumatic. As in a lot of ways, parents and policemen are alike. I think it's really important to ask police, especially if you are related to one, or if you see one in your daily life. I think it's really easy to look past that and just say, oh, they're a policeman. They have no choice but to be okay. They have no choice but to put on a smile. They have no choice but to be brave, because of the fact that if they don't look brave, then I'm scared too. I think it's really, really important to make sure that mental health is a big part of everyone's daily life. It's not just about the kids' mental health. It's not just about my mental health. It's about Officer Mike's mental health, Officer Norwood's, Mr. Robert Jameson. It's about my mom's mental health. It's about how everyone should be feeling okay. And if they're not okay, then I'm not okay either.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. That's powerful words. Give her some hands on
That's
that.
some powerful
Right?
stuff. Thank you.
Snaps on that.
Powerful.
That was excellent. Very well said.
Looked like we were about running out of time here, but we do have some special announcements. We do have some giveaways. There's been some great conversation here today, some great comments, but we do want to acknowledge a couple of people today. I want you guys to put your fingers together because he had a great idea for his t-shirt. Let's hear it for Alex. Alex, give him some. Everybody give him some. Way to go, Alex. We also want to acknowledge Ava because she expressed her ideas on training for police department. So we're going to give her some. Appreciate that, Ava. But this week we actually have another person that we want to acknowledge, Tim, for being solution driven in this last breakout session. So Tim, we're going to give you the exact same level we gave everybody else. Everybody give him some. Give him some. Right. What do we have for them, Maria?
We have Dick's Sporting Goods gift cards that will be mailed out along with your t-shirts. Actually, everyone's going to get t-shirts so everyone can celebrate about that. They will be coming out next week.
T-shirts, gift cards, more to come.
And
Everybody's
so,
eligible every week. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
so just want to say thank you as we're closing out this session, and a really excellent session with lots of rich discussion. Love hearing your voices, youth. Please continue to speak loudly and clearly and let your voices be heard. Um, so much more that we could cover right now, but we're out of time, unfortunately. I will say go ahead and follow us on social media. You can engage and interact with us on there. You can pose questions, and one of our officers, maybe Corporal Norwood or Officer George, will address your questions. So you can follow us on social media, on Instagram at Detroit_PAL, or on Facebook at Detroit PAL. All right.
Absolutely. And for those gift cards, once again, how will they get those again, Maria?
They will be mailed to you.
Mail to them. Excellent. Excellent. And you know what? I want to take this time real quick in closing. Alex, I want to invite you to be our guest co-host next week if you like to. We would love to hear your opinion. So instead of going into the breakout rooms, I want you to hang out here with me and Maria and all of our Facebook viewers live. If that's something that you're interested in, please let us know. If you're interested in it, give me a thumbs up. If you need to think about it, we'll do this. But I'm looking for one of these. I'm looking for one of these from you, Alex. My man, Alex. Yes.
Yeah.
He'll do it. He'll do it. Cool, cool. All right, everybody. Maria, we're back next week again.
Next week, we'll see you same time, same place, Wednesday, 6 to 8 p.m. And we will be addressing social media's role.
Oh yeah.
in
So tell a
police.
friend, bring a friend. That's your job. Tell a friend, bring a friend. And again, we love to hear from our youth. With that being said, see you next week, you and your friend.
Bye-bye.
Good night, everyone.
Awesome. So for our note takers, just hang on a second as normal.